So we have a brand new update and conclusion when it comes to the man overboard, or should I say woman overboard, as well as the search and rescue situation that took place this week on board Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas. I'm going to make this video short and sweet and give you the details, and I do have to be careful with my words in this video, as my video that I published yesterday got age restricted, meaning it is of course demonetized. It will not be promoted. That's why the views are so low on that video as well. And this does affect my future video like the one that I'm making here as far as promotion. And if I have more of these infractions, unfortunately, YouTube will not be too happy, to the point to where they could potentially delete the channel. Nevertheless, just to give you the rundown, the backstory of all of this up until the point that we are at now, Royal Caribbean's Allure of the Seas was on a quick 4-day sailing out of Miami, Florida from October 21st through October 25th. However, on the second day of the sailing on October 22nd, unfortunately, during the evening hours after the ship left Nassau, Bahamas, it was reported that a 66-year-old woman had gone overboard. Royal Caribbean immediately dispatched their search and rescue efforts. You also had the world's second largest cruise ship, Utopia of the Seas by Royal Caribbean, that also aided in the search. Later on, you would have the Royal Bahamian Defense Force, which is basically the Coast Guard for the Bahamas. They would come and help out. And then you had the U.S. Coast Guard that would bring out a helicopter and a jet. They would then search until the following day. The total time of the search would end up inevitably being about 16 hours. And now we know at this point, the search has officially been suspended until further notice. In yesterday's video, I did mention that typically whenever there is a search and rescue going on from a man overboard situation, it will usually last anywhere between 24 to 48 and up to 72 hours before the official search is called off if they don't have any positive results. However, there are so many factors that can determine how long the search goes on for, like the time in which the man overboard happened, the currents that are in the area, the location in which the person went overboard, the amount of help that was there. Like in this video, you had 2 large cruise ships and 2 different agencies of Coast Guard, out of which being the Bahamas Coast Guard and the United States Coast Guard. And obviously the intention in which the person potentially went overboard as well can also play a role. Yesterday, after I published my video, I would ask in the comment section if anybody out there believed that there was some kind of way to hopefully stop these man overboard situations from taking place on board cruise ships. Most of the viewers that commented said, unfortunately, there isn't a way. However, there was one interesting comment that suggested that whenever somebody goes overboard and it is discovered that it was potentially intentional, the family should fit the bill. I'm assuming for the rescue efforts, because as you can imagine, when rescue boats are deployed and helicopters and planes, it is obviously a very costly thing to do. I'm assuming the idea was inspired by something that is notoriously known in a place like Japan. There was for years a bunch of people that were disappearing by way of public transportation. So now you had people trying to commute to work, and unfortunately the trains and potentially the buses and any way that people were getting over to work, where they needed to go, was officially shut down. And yet people that were now late to work, people that were getting fired, and unfortunately it just wasn't a good situation, to the point to where the government basically made it that should you decide to disappear that way, your family would have to fit the bill for not only obviously the cleanup and investigative efforts, but also potentially the people that had their life basically interrupted, their job interrupted, because they couldn't get to where they needed to go via public transportation. I am genuinely interested as far as what all of you think about that idea. If somebody goes overboard, the family ends up fitting the bill. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comment section below. However, for me personally, I do believe there is a more effective way to go about this to hopefully stop people from going overboard on cruise ships. And it is something that I mention all the time. I believe that people should be very careful about who they cruise with. It's not only if you are in a relationship and you guys are fighting, or maybe you and somebody else can't decide what excursions you want to do, or you have 2 different ideas of how you're going to vacation. As somebody that cruises a lot, I do talk and meet with a lot of people from all different walks of life, and we understand that a cruise ship is supposed to help us escape reality. But with things like Wi-Fi and the fact that we are in the real world most of the time on a cruise ship for a week, typically people are having conversations about their life back at home. They're having conversations about politics, something that I typically don't discuss. You got people even watching other people and being in everybody else's business for whatever reason. That I'll never understand. However, I also see a lot of people that technically simply didn't even want to go on the cruise, even though that's hard to believe because cruises are fun, but they were kind of dragged along. And then when you talk to the person they came with, they say, well, this person was not really in the right headspace and they just got out of a breakup and life's not too good for them. So I decided to book a cruise for them. And personally, for me, I believe that is the last thing that somebody should do. Anyway, I do not want to ramble on. My sincere condolences do go out to the friends, family, and loved one of the 66-year-old woman that did go overboard, who the search for has now unfortunately been suspended. We can, of course, hope and pray for a miracle. You never know what can happen, but this is what we have for this story. And I do want to make it very clear. I am not saying that there are certain people out there that shouldn't cruise. I'm just kind of stating the obvious, and hopefully you all get what I mean by saying this in this video. But of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe if you haven't already. And know, as usual, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I'll see you later. Take it easy.